I still remember the exact sound the conference room door made when it closed behind me that morning. Soft, controlled, like the company itself pretending it wasn't built on pressure and secrets. My name is Avery Lane, I told myself in the glass reflection, and today is the day they tried to break you. The skyline of Chicago stared back at me through the floor-to-ceiling windows, all steel and glass and ambition. 27 floors below, people hustled across crosswalks with their coffees and deadlines, completely unaware that my life was about to be taken apart by a man in a tailored navy suit. Marcus Hale, Senior VP, charismatic, worshipped by the board, and the man who had spent the last 18 months quietly stealing my work and smiling in my face while he did it. I walked into the meeting with my heart hammering hard enough to make my blazer feel too tight. Everyone was already seated. The board members, HR, legal. My manager, Serena, wouldn't look at me. Marcus sat at the head of the table, jacket off, sleeves rolled perfectly, tie loosened just enough to say, "I'm powerful, but relaxed." He stood when I came in, like we were old friends. "Avery, good. Have a seat," he said, voice smooth as polished marble. I didn't sit, because the folder in front of him, my folder, had my name crossed out with black marker, and above it, in bold letters, was a single word, termination. My throat went dry. "What's this?" Marcus gave a sympathetic half smile, the kind people rehearse in the mirror. "Let's talk," he said. "Close the door, please." I closed it myself. Of course I did. That's what they always expect people like me to do. Finish the job of trapping ourselves. He cleared his throat. "Avery, we've reviewed the numbers and the recent issues around Project Meridian. My project, my 3 years of late nights, ruined weekends, and just one more revision texts at midnight." "What issues?" I asked, keeping my voice even. HR shifted in her seat. Legal clicked his pen. Serena stared at the table like the wood grain was suddenly fascinating. Marcus clasped his hands. "It appears there were serious compliance gaps in your process. Data mishandling, vendor irregularities. The client is concerned. We have to act decisively." Compliance gaps. That was a lie. A week ago, I'd found the email, buried, misfiled, but not deleted. Marcus had instructed our overseas vendor to bypass standard checks to hit the quarter's numbers. My name was copied in as a process lead, but the email had never reached me. Someone had quietly removed me from the distribution list months before it went out. Someone with admin permissions. "You're firing me," I said. Marcus tilted his head like he regretted it. "It's not just termination. Legal recommends we file a formal misconduct report. It may impact your ability to work in finance going forward." It wasn't enough to push me out. He wanted to salt the ground behind me. The room blurred for a second. Not from tears. I refused to give him that, but from the weight of every sacrifice I had made for this place. My mother's voice flashed in my head from the day I moved to Chicago with 2 suitcases and a scholarship check. "Baby, just promise me one thing. No matter what, you don't let anyone turn you into less than you are." I took a breath, slow and deliberate. "You think I did this," I said, looking at Marcus. "You're putting this all on me." HR jumped in. The investigation shows whatever Marcus wanted it to show," I cut in. A small, dangerous silence slid over the table. Legal frowned. "Miss Lane, I'd caution you—" "No," I said softly. "You should be cautious." I finally sat, slowly, like I owned the chair, even if it was about to be pulled out from under me. I folded my hands the way Marcus always did and met his eyes. "Because I have every email," I said. "Every red line, every version of the budget with your edits, and I have a copy of the vendor's signed statement from last week. The one where they say, and I'm quoting here, 'We proceeded as instructed by Mr. Hale to expedite approvals outside the standard compliance framework.'" Serena's head snapped up. HR's pen froze over her notes. Marcus's smile slipped, just a fraction. "There's no such statement," he said. I shrugged. Funny, that's exactly what I thought, until I asked them to forward their correspondence to my personal email, just in case. I slid my phone out, laid it on the table like a quiet threat. For the first time since I'd known him, Marcus looked uncertain. Not terrified, not yet. But the edges of his confidence had frayed. "Avery," he said slowly, "let's not escalate this." "Oh, I think we're past that," I replied. I should have been shaking. I should have been begging. That's what they expect from people they think are powerless. But something in me had snapped the moment I saw my name crossed out on that folder. I wasn't powerless. I'd just been too loyal. I spent the next 10 minutes walking them through their own lie. Every missing audit trail. Every decision Marcus had signed off on. Every message he'd forwarded from his personal account to a private Slack channel I wasn't included in. But another analyst was. An analyst who hated him enough to quietly share screenshots when he realized Marcus was building his career on everyone else's mistakes. The deeper I went, the quieter the room became. Finally, legal spoke. "We'll need time to review this information." Marcus forced a calm breath. Of course we will. Let's pause any final decisions until we've had a chance to verify what Miss Lane is claiming. What I'm claiming, not what I'm proving. I smiled, small and controlled. "Take all the time you need," I said. I already sent the full packet to an external address. HR frowned. "External address?" "My attorney," I said. I didn't have an attorney, not yet. But they didn't know that. And in that moment, Marcus blinked. Just once. But it was enough. The meeting ended with no handshakes, no fake smiles. They filed out, silent. Marcus lingered by the door, looking back at me like I was a problem he hadn't expected to have to solve. "You're making a mistake, Avery," he said. "No," I replied, gathering my things. "I'm correcting one." He stepped closer, his voice dropping low. "You don't win this. People like you never do. You'll drag this out, maybe get a settlement, and then you'll disappear into some mid-tier firm and burn out, while I keep moving up." I met his eyes, and for the first time, I let him see the anger I'd kept buried under years of forced politeness. "Marcus," I said quietly, "I'm not looking for a settlement." He hesitated. "Then what do you want?" I opened the door and gave him the same practiced, professional smile he'd used on me 100 times. "I want you to lose everything you stole," I said, "and I want you to watch." I left him standing there, alone in the conference room. That was the day they tried to end my career. It was also the day my revenge truly began. That night, my apartment felt like a hotel room I hadn't chosen. I dropped my blazer on a chair, kicked off my heels, and stood in the dark for a moment, listening to the city grind on outside my window. Somewhere, a siren wailed. Somewhere, people laughed. Somewhere, Marcus was already rewriting the story. I turned on my laptop. No drama, just the glow of the screen and the quiet whir of the fan. I logged into my personal email, into the cloud backup I'd set up my first month at the company, just in case. 3 years of just in case were waiting for me. Decks with my name on the first draft and his on the final. Budgets where my formulas were intact but my comments were gone. Email threads where he'd jumped in at the last minute and magically become the hero. Everywhere I looked, I saw the same pattern. I did the heavy lifting. He took the bow. My phone buzzed. "Serena, I'm sorry." The woman who'd once called me the future of this department hadn't said a word in that room. "Did you know?" I typed. The dots appeared, then vanished. Finally, I didn't start it. I didn't stop it. At least she was honest about being a coward, I set the phone face down and created a new folder on my desktop. Hail. Every file went in there. Every version I could find. Every message that showed his edits, his approvals, his little, "let's make sure Avery owns this if anything goes wrong" jokes. The more I organized, the clearer it became. It wasn't just me. Analysts who'd left suddenly. Managers pushed onto special projects and then quietly cut. Projects that crashed, and somehow Marcus always landed. On his feet, promoted for navigating crisis. This wasn't bad luck, it was a system. Around midnight, my eyes burned, but my hands were steady. Revenge, I realized, wasn't about yelling in a conference room. It was about evidence. It was about patience. And it was about making sure that by the time Marcus Hale realized what I was building, it would already be too late for him to bury it. That night, sleep came in fragments, shallow, restless, interrupted by the same replay of Marcus's voice echoing in that cold conference room. "People like you never win." I woke before dawn, sitting upright, breath tight, hands clenched in the sheets. For a moment, I didn't know where I was. Then the glow of the city through my blinds reminded me. Chicago. My apartment. My life, shaken but not broken. I got up, made coffee strong enough to burn a hole in my throat, and sat at the kitchen counter staring at the Hale folder on my laptop. There was enough evidence to open an investigation, enough to get him audited, enough to drag the company's name through the news cycle for a week, but not enough to destroy him. Not yet. Marcus had built his career on shadows, on charm, on being the man the board trusted even when the numbers said otherwise. Men like him didn't fall from one scandal. They survived. They apologized strategically. They claimed misalignment in data interpretation and kept climbing. No. If I wanted real revenge, if I wanted him to lose everything he stole, then I had to hit him where it hurt. His future, his reputation, his support system. I needed help. My first call was to someone who had no reason to protect him. Ethan Clark. He'd been one of our best analysts. Sharp, organized, the kind of guy who double-checked double-checks. He left the company abruptly last year, right after a quarterly review where somehow Marcus claimed credit for a forecasting tool Ethan built from scratch. Rumor was Ethan nearly punched him before HR stepped in. I found his number buried in an old group text thread. When he answered, his voice was guarded. "Avery, everything okay?" "Not really," I said. "I need to talk. It's about Marcus." A pause, then a low chuckle that held no humor. "Where are you?" We met at a 24-hour diner on the edge of River North, the kind of place where the coffee was terrible, but the booths were private. Ethan looked tired. Not physically, but the kind of tired you get after years of fighting a system built to protect people like Marcus. He slid into the booth across from me. "What happened?" "They tried to fire me yesterday," I said. He didn't flinch. "Let me guess. Compliance issues? Vendor irregularities? Something they said was your responsibility, but magically happened outside your control?" I blinked. "Yes." He leaned back, shaking his head. "Same playbook. Every time." The waitress brought coffee. We both ignored it. "What do you know?" I asked. Ethan laced his fingers together, staring at the table for a long moment before he spoke. "I know Marcus has a pattern," he said. "He boosts his numbers by cutting corners. Gets the results, gets the praise, and if anything goes wrong, whoever was closest to the project takes the hit. He's protected because the board likes people who deliver, and they don't care how it happens." I swallowed hard. I have evidence. Enough to make them pause yesterday, but not enough to end him. Ethan looked up. "What kind of evidence?" I told him about the emails, the vendor statement, the cloud backups I'd kept, The quiet screenshot leak from the analyst who hated him. Every detail. Ethan listened without interrupting. When I finished, he let out a slow breath. "That's a start," he said. "But if you really want to bring him down, you're going to need a pattern, a timeline, something that proves it wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate." My heart beat faster. "You have something, don't you?" He hesitated just long enough to make my stomach twist. Then he nodded. "I kept everything," he said. "Every email, every message, every version of the forecasting tool he stole, and the HR complaint I filed. They buried it, of course. Said there wasn't enough evidence. But if we combine everything..." His voice trailed off. He didn't have to finish the sentence. "Together, we could make a case big enough that the company couldn't ignore it. Big enough that the board couldn't protect him. Big enough to make Marcus Hale radioactive." I leaned forward. "Ethan, if you help me, this won't just end his career there. It could blacklist him from every major firm in the city." He looked up, eyes sharp with a mix of caution and rage. "Avery, I'm not helping you for revenge. I'm helping because someone needs to stop him before he ruins the next person." I understood. My reason was revenge. His was justice. Together, it didn't matter what we called it. We agreed to meet the next night to start building the timeline. But revenge has its own timing. Because as soon as I got home, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Then a voicemail came through. A man's voice. Cool. Polished. Measured. "Avery, this is Robert Slade from Hale and Burton Consulting. Marcus asked me to reach out. He believes things may have escalated unnecessarily today. He'd like me to invite you to a conversation to find a mutually beneficial resolution." My stomach twisted. He already had a crisis consultant. Not a lawyer. Not HR. A fixer. People only hire fixers when they're scared. I replayed the message 3 times. Each time, the same thought burned brighter. He knows. He knows I have something. But he doesn't know how much. I didn't call back. Instead, I spent the next day doing what I did best. Analyzing. Every file, every timestamp, every discrepancy. The deeper I dug, the more a shocking pattern emerged. Projects Marcus touched always had spikes in financial performance right before quarterly reviews, followed by sudden drops hidden in corrective adjustments. That wasn't incompetence. That was manipulation, possibly fraud. By evening, my apartment was covered in printed documents, red marker lines connecting data points like a crime board, and in the middle was the same name over and over. Marcus Hale. At 8:17 p.m., Ethan arrived with a flash drive and 2 manila folders. "These," he said, placing them on the table, "are everything." His HR complaint, his original forecasting tool, emails where Marcus rewrote history, a Slack conversation where Marcus bragged that analysts are replaceable and it's not theft if the board likes you. I stared at the files, at the months-long trail of arrogance. "He's going to regret this," I whispered. Ethan nodded. "What's next?" I exhaled slowly. We build a story, the full picture. And then we decide the best way to take him down. "Internally or externally?" he asked. I didn't answer immediately. Because the truth was simple. If we went internally, the company might protect him to avoid scandal. If we went externally, press, regulatory agencies, industry watchdogs, it wouldn't matter who liked him. Evidence beats charm. Ethan watched me think. "Avery, if you do this, there's no going back. I know. You could burn bridges. I already have. You could lose your entire career. Maybe," I said softly. "But if I don't do this, he'll just keep doing it to someone else." Ethan studied me for a moment, then extended his hand. "Then let's end him." I shook it. And just like that, the alliance was real. For the next 4 days, we worked in my apartment like detectives, mapping fraud indicators, pulling audit logs, tracking financial patterns. We built a case strong enough to survive a court, strong enough to make any board panic. One night, Ethan paused, scanning the evidence wall. "You know," he said, "this isn't just career sabotage. If this hits the wrong agency, Marcus could face charges." I stared at the center of the board, his name in bold red. "I know. Is that what you want?" I didn't answer right away. What did I want? Retribution? Justice? Closure? All I knew was this. Marcus hadn't just tried to fire me, he tried to erase me, destroy me, make me the scapegoat for his corruption. He'd gambled that I wouldn't fight back. He was wrong. By the 5th day, we had something airtight. A 94-page dossier detailing every lie, every manipulation, every stolen credit, every compliance breach, every audit trail he'd tampered with. It was devastating. It was career-ending. It was everything I needed. I was ready. But revenge never happens in a straight line. Because that night, as I was printing the final version of the dossier, someone buzzed my apartment. I froze. It was nearly midnight. The buzzer rang again. Ethan moved toward the window. "Do you see anyone?" I looked. A black sedan was parked across the street, engine running, tinted windows. My pulse hammered. The buzzer rang a 3rd time. Then a voice crackled through the intercom. "Avery, it's Marcus." My breath stopped. Ethan's eyes widened. Marcus spoke again, voice low, sharp, not pretending anymore. "Let me in. We need to talk." My fingers hovered over the intercom button. Revenge wasn't supposed to find me first, but somehow it had. And the night was suddenly very, very quiet. For a moment, I couldn't move. The intercom crackled again, Marcus's voice controlled in a way I'd never heard before. Not smooth, not charming, tight, urgent. "Avery," he said, "open the door. We're not doing this out here." Ethan stepped closer. "Don't let him in." My pulse thudded so hard I felt it in my teeth. I backed away from the intercom like it might burn me. Marcus was supposed to be scrambling behind corporate walls, not standing outside my building at midnight. "How did he even find your address?" Ethan whispered. I already knew the answer. It was written into my employee file. Marcus had access. The buzzer went silent, then came a single knock on the glass door downstairs. Firm, deliberate, too calm. I didn't go to the window, didn't speak, didn't breathe. After a few seconds, my phone lit up. "Unknown. I can see your lights are on." A chill rolled over my skin. Ethan grabbed his phone. "I'm calling the police." "No," I said, surprising myself. "What do you mean, no?" he hissed. "He's unstable. He's cornered. People like him don't knock on doors at midnight unless they're desperate or dangerous." "I know," I said, "but if we call the police, we look hysterical, emotional, irrational. It becomes his story again." "Avery, I'm not giving him that." The buzzer rang a 4th time. Then the knocking stopped. Then footsteps. Light. Slow. Moving away from the door. I ran to the window just in time to see Marcus walking back toward the black sedan. He paused on the curb, phone in hand, looking up at my building like he was memorizing the layout. Then he got into the car and disappeared into the night. My breath shook out of me in a rush I didn't feel until my knees almost buckled. Ethan looked at me hard. He's scared. "Yes," I whispered, "which means we're close." But something about the visit felt wrong. Too bold, too early, almost like a warning. After he left, neither of us could sleep. We spent the rest of the night tightening our timeline, adding footnotes, refining citations, building a digital trail so tight even the best fixer couldn't wiggle through it. By morning, we were exhausted, jittery, but focused. I printed 3 copies of the dossier. One for the company's board, one for a regulatory agency, and one for me. I slid the pages into a clean binder with a spine label in sharp black letters. Hail. Misconduct dossier. Ethan read the label and blew out a slow breath. This is going to hit harder than you think. I hope so, I said. He's built an entire legacy on lies. Time for it to collapse. But revenge is a storm. You can prepare for it, plan it, provoke it, but you never really control where the lightning lands. At 9:12 a.m., my email pinged. From Robert Slade. Subject, immediate resolution discussion. Requested I didn't open it. At 9:30, a second ping. From HR, corporate subject. Notice of administrative leave, pending review. I read that one. Marcus had made his move. He'd put me on administrative leave. Not fired, not cleared, just frozen, contained, a tactic. Ethan paced behind me. He's trying to stall. He knows you have something. He just doesn't know how much. He's buying time, I said. Probably rewriting documents, coaching HR, scrubbing audit trails. So we move now, Ethan said. Not yet. He stared at me. Avery. I'm not handing over anything until I'm sure it lands where it hurts. I took a deep breath, dialed the number at the top of the administrative notice, and waited. HR picked up. Dry voice. Scripted tone. Miss Lane, this is simply a procedural step as we continue reviewing both sides of the events surrounding Project Meridian. Great, I said. Then you'll want to schedule a meeting with the board immediately. Silence. We don't typically. You'll want to, I repeated, after you review the evidence packet I'll be delivering today. HR hesitated. What? Evidence packet? The one detailing 3 years of misconduct by Senior VP Marcus Hale. The silence stretched so long I could hear her swallow. I'll forward this to the appropriate. You do that? I said, and ended the call. Ethan stared at me. What now? I closed my laptop. Now we walk into the boardroom and make sure Marcus can't bury this. By noon, I was standing in the marble lobby of the Hale and Burton corporate tower, dossier in hand, wearing the same blazer they tried to fire me in. This time, it didn't feel too tight. Ethan stood beside me, shoulders squared. The receptionist blinked at us. Miss Lane, you're not scheduled. I am now, I said, placing an envelope on the counter. This is for the board. Please mark it urgent. She hesitated, but the word urgent and the weight of the binder inside the envelope did something to her expression. She took it carefully. I'll alert the office, she said. Ethan and I stepped back. We didn't sit. We didn't leave. We waited. 10 minutes later, the elevator opened. A man in a gray suit, legal counsel, no question, gestured stiffly. The board can see you? My stomach tightened. Ethan squeezed my shoulder once. You've got this. We stepped into the executive elevator and rode in tense silence up to the top floor, where everything smelled like old money, polished wood, and fear barely hidden under professionalism. The boardroom door was open. 7 members sat around the table, faces unreadable. And at the center was an empty chair. Marcus wasn't here. Good. That meant he wasn't in control. The chairman cleared his throat. Miss Lane, we received your materials. Then you know why I'm here, I said, sliding the second dossier copy onto the table. He didn't touch it. These are serious accusations. They're supported with serious evidence. We will need time to review. You've had time, I cut in. You've had years of warning signs. He's caused turnover spikes, financial discrepancies, vendor complaints. You ignored all of it because he delivered numbers when you needed them. A few board members shifted uncomfortably. I continued. Marcus tried to frame me. He tried to destroy my career, but in doing so, he forced me to look deeper. And what I found goes far beyond me. I opened the dossier, turned every page, walked them through timelines, audit logs, Slack messages, compliance breaks, forecasting manipulations. By the time I finished, no one looked calm anymore. Ethan handed over his HR complaint as the final stroke. "This," he said, "was filed last year. HR buried it." The HR director at the table went pale. The chairman leaned back, pinching the bridge of his nose. "Miss Lane, this is damning. If verified, this could result in internal restructuring, shareholder concerns, and criminal charges," I added, "depending on what the regulators decide." A tremor passed through the room. Finally, the chairman said softly, "Where's Marcus now?" The door opened behind us. We turned. Marcus walked in. He looked nothing like the man I'd faced in the conference room weeks ago. His tie was loosened, his jaw tight, his eyes storm dark. "Avery," he said, "what are you doing?" I faced him fully. "Finishing what you started." He stepped closer. "You don't understand." "No," I said, voice steady. "I understand perfectly. You took my work. You took Ethan's. You cut corners, pushed blame, manipulated numbers, and climbed every rung by stepping on people you thought would stay quiet. Avery. And you would have gotten away with it," I continued, "if you hadn't tried to destroy me." The board watched us like a live execution. Marcus swallowed. "These are exaggerations, misinterpretations, old data." "Prove it," I said. He blinked. "Go ahead," I said. "Explain the audit gaps. Explain the vendor statement. Explain the Slack messages. Explain the forecasting tool metadata with your fingerprints in every formula." He opened his mouth, closed it. The chairman cleared his throat. "Marcus, we'll need to place you on immediate suspension pending investigation." Suspension, not termination, not enough, not yet. Marcus looked at me with pure hatred. "You think this ends me?" "Yes," I said quietly. "I do." He stepped closer, voice low enough only I could hear. "You'll burn with me." I met his stare head on. "I already walked through the fire. You're the one standing in gasoline." Security escorted him out. The board dismissed me shortly after, promising review, promising follow-up, promising appropriate action. Ethan and I rode the elevator down in silence. When the doors closed behind us in the lobby, he exhaled. "You did it." "Not yet," I said. "Suspension is just the beginning." We walked out of the building, sunlight sharp and cold across the pavement. My phone buzzed. A news alert. Breaking regulatory agency launches inquiry into Hale and Burton. Senior VP Ethan looked at me. "Did you send it already?" "No," I said, heart pounding. "But someone did." Another alert, then another. The story was spreading, fast. By the time I reached my apartment, my inbox was full. Journalists, lawyers, analysts. The storm had begun. I stood in my living room as the city glowed outside, dossier on the table, hands steady for the first time in weeks. Revenge wasn't a moment. It was a process. And I had just watched Marcus Hale step into the consequences he'd built with his own hands. Ethan texted me one last message. He'll never work in this industry again. You won. I looked out over Chicago, the city that tried to swallow me whole, and felt the weight lift from my chest. I typed back, "No, we stopped him." That's the real victory. And for the first time since the day he crossed out my name on that folder, I breathed freely. My career wasn't over. My life wasn't ruined. My story hadn't ended in that conference room. It ended here. With me standing unbroken, while the man who tried to erase me finally faced everything he had done. And God, it felt like justice.